Hello there and welcome. This is Mikhail or Michael speaking, and as always, I want to say thank you all who decided to support me financially, be it through Patreon, PayPal, or Super Thanks. Words cannot describe how much I appreciate your generosity, so thank you friends and have a blessed day. Now, today's video I want to start with the situation around Bakmut city, and especially the settlement of Klishevka. All throughout last 24 hours, Ukrainians were continuously assaulting Russian positions in front of this settlement in attempt to achieve a breakthrough. It would seem that at some point they were successful at that and even entered the settlement, after which Russians threw reinforcements, Chechen forces and elite guard tank regiment, and at least for now saved the situation. The most interesting place in all this battle is happening here. As you can see here, Russians are in control of the trench lines that were constructed by the Ukrainians and that Russians took in their attempt to encircle Bakhmut. Situation on this sector varies and varies significantly. Pro-Ukrainian sources once again double down on the fact that this sector is under their control, and with that they have fire control over the Klishevka settlement, which is located in the lowlands. But most of the pro-Russian and neutral sources are saying that the battle for this sector is ongoing, and there is a lot of back and forth happening, with Ukrainians being able to penetrate Russian defensive lines, but after Russians counterattack are driven back. In a way, the fact that Ukrainians at least partially control this forest helps. They are able to accumulate some forces under the cover of the trees and then advance along the road under the cover of this forest line and penetrate Russian defensive lines that, as you can see, are not that long here. It is much shorter. So by applying maximum pressure at some point, Ukrainians are able to penetrate Russian defensive lines here. Then we go to the south flank of Klishevka, where Ukrainians had relative success. They were able to capture this crossing here and establish a bridgehead here in front of the settlement of Andreevka. Russians do have positions along these forest lines that, as you can see, are supported by a network of roads. As of right now, this is all the territorial changes that happened on the Bakhmut front line. Ukrainians were trying to attack as well in the direction of Kurdyumovka and Ozernikivka. However, these attacks were limited and did not achieve anything. Then from here, let's move to the Kupiansk front line. Just recently a report came in that Russians started advancing within this forest that they had recently captured in the direction of village of Sinikivka. In the last week, Russians were quiet here, but it would seem they have restored their operations here. Result of these attacks we will know in the near future. And while we here's the video of Russian Lancet drone striking BMP-2 of the Ukrainian forces and damaging it. Then from here, let's move to the situation near and around Marinka, where changes appeared and not in favor of the Russians. First, it is important to touch that Russians are not idle here as well. They are continuously assaulting within the Marinka settlement and to its northern flank. However, in the last 24 hours, no success was reported here. Russians were also assaulting in the direction of Pobeda without any success, and in the direction of Novomikhailivka. Right in between Novomikhailivka and settlement of Pobeda, Ukrainians assaulted Russian positions and were able to retake some of the sectors recently lost to the Russian forces. To be more clear, this is how much of the territory they were able to capture. So this generally proves that Ukrainians are trying to counterattack Russians in effort to stop their advancements. Then from here, let's move to the Vremivka tactical bridgehead. Although Ukrainians were very active here in this sector and assaulted Russian positions all across the front line in the direction of the settlement of Novodonetsk, as well as Priyutne from Livadne, Novodarivka and Rivnopol, they also intensified their assaults in the direction of Staromayorsk and Urozhaine. Both Russian and Ukrainian sources are claiming relative success of the Ukrainian forces here to the north of Staromayorsk. While these Ukrainian assaults are ongoing, Russians have a free rein when it comes to aerial superiority. Russian K-52 Alligator assault helicopters are having a field day at destroying Ukrainian armored vehicles. For example, here's the video of that. Then I have a video of Russians spotting a Ukrainian tank and striking it with kamikaze drone, at least damaging it. Then from here, let's move to the Izhip sector. Yesterday, I reported that Ukrainians were continuously assaulting Russian positions in front of Rabotina, here to the east of this road, and it would seem that they were able to achieve partial success. As a result of these assaults, they were able to capture this much territories from the Russians. With this, of course, they are creeping ever slowly to the settlement of Rabotina itself, and if Russians are not to counterattack here in this sector, we are to expect the battle for the settlement to start fairly soon. Generally, Ukrainians were also assaulting all across this front line. They were assaulting from Malotokmachka in the direction of Novopokrovka and from Orikhiv in the direction of Nesteryanka. These attacks were unsuccessful. So, the most dangerous spot on this front line is settlement of Rabotina. Russians still do have some trench lines in front of it. Then I have few videos for you to show. Mostly they are coming from the Kreminna front line. For example, this is the video of Russians destroying a transport carrying ammunition for the Ukrainian forces. And here is a video of Ukrainian assault group moving in somewhere within this front line and seemingly hitting a mine. Generally, on this front line, Russians were continuously advancing in the direction of Yampolivka and Terny. Yesterday, I reported of a success happening here on this front line. It would seem that Ukrainians quickly realized the dangers of this breakthrough and counterattacked Russians. So we can only say of a limited advancements of the Russian forces in the direction of Yampolivka. Then Russians were continuously fighting in the outskirts of the settlement of Torsky, as well as advancing within the Serebryansky forest and from Dibrova in the direction of Torsky as well. Now, it is important to note that once again, Ukrainians are doing everything they can to stop Russians and not allow them to advance. Recent photos show intensive fires within the Serebryansky forest itself. This goes to show extreme intensity of fighting here in this sector. Basically, this is the end of the video. One point to note is that, as you can see, yesterday Russians were mostly on the offensive, and today Ukrainians were able to capture some territories. Generally, this is the reality of today's war in Ukraine. As Russians attack, Ukrainians are trying to counterattack them, and as Ukrainians attack, Russians are trying to counterattack them as well. Sometimes successfully, sometimes not. As you can see today, it is mostly Ukrainians that have some advancements and territorial changes in their favor. In any way, let's see what tomorrow brings us. With this, I end today's video. If you like this video and you want to support me, this channel and this video, please consider hitting that like button, subscribing and commenting. These actions as always promote videos to wider audience and help spread the message. Thank you in advance. As always, humanity calls me to condemn all violence against human beings. Have a good day and always remember, Russia will be free and great.